being an adult sucks. They try to set us up for the real world, but that didn't seem to work really well. In fact, I believe they're not trying to set us up for the real world. The American schooling system doesn't really teach you what you need to know once you become an adult. It kind of just teaches us to stay in line and only to have so much critical thinking skills and to not really question the system at hand. And if you do start to question it, you are delusional. Although I believe school doesn't teach us for success, there are parts of school that I do miss, which is funny because when I was younger, I actually hated school. The reason I hated school when I was younger was because I was being forced to learn about topics I didn't even think were useful or I didn't know I was going to be planning on using. I thought the information was useless, but I was just a naive little boy who didn't really know any better and didn't really like having to stay in line. I didn't like listening to teachers, and to this day, I still have trouble with authority and I don't like dealing with managers and stuff like that. However, I was still a good kid and got decent grades from my parents. I was an A, B student in high school, but I still didn't like going. I hated waking up early and going to class and kind of just sitting there, not really knowing what I'm doing. And I didn't really have a phone at this time, so I kind of just doodled in class quite a bit. I jumped around friend groups because I didn't know my people necessarily until about senior year of high school, and that's when I met my homies back then that I'm still friends with to this day. And there's a lot of people from high school that I don't even know about anymore or talk to or anything like that. I wasn't close to a lot of people. However, I still got my social itch out of the way, which was nice. I did know a lot of people in high school, which is kind of interesting because I still have a lot of different friend groups now as I've gotten older, just because I kind of bounce around and I like meeting new people, even though I am naturally introverted. Back in high school, I didn't really drink or do any partying, which I'm kind of thankful for because I don't have any addictions for the most part because I still see people who are my age who started vaping at a very young age and they're just addicted to either stuff like that or they have like alcohol addictions or anything like that. So I'm glad I was kind of goody two shoes back in high school and most of college as well. I have more information about college in my life. It's not something I'm going to go over this video because it's kind of long. Basically, then after high school, I graduated and then I went to college and graduated my 4 year degree in psychology. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it because everyone always asked me, and personally, I had no idea. I started off as a neuroscience major, and I wasn't even undeclared when I applied for college. They just kind of threw me into some kind of major for some reason. And I did like learning about that stuff. It was just very difficult to keep up with. And I don't know, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my college degree, anyways, or where I wanted to go in my life. And that's why it's hard not to view college as a scam because you have no idea what you're really doing, especially at a young age when you're like 18. However, what I liked more about college compared to high school is that I was able to learn about whatever I want and I was able to take, extra curriculum classes about things I wanted to learn. High school was a little bit the same way, but you had to take your core classes and stuff like that. In college, you have more freedom, which is what I enjoyed. However, you're still young and you still have no idea what you want to do with your life. And that was me. So I kind of just took a little bit of everything. And I didn't know where I was going. And to this day, I still have little ideas of where I'm going. And I kind of have some direction and what I want to do in my life. And that's why I kind of made this channel. But it's still difficult for me, especially when I'm approaching like 30 in the next couple of years. Even when I was in college, though, I didn't really struggle going to class. I was a person who tried to get my classes out of the way as quickly as possible. So I was taking classes at like 8 a.m. and finishing probably around like 2 o'clock. I was actually waking up really early during this time, which is actually surprising because now I don't wake up early or don't like really waking up early. My grades were still good, but I was never a straight A student because I always thought there was more to life than having a letter define who you are as a person or some kind of percentage. During this time, it was the loneliness I've ever felt in my life, but that is going to be in another video, and we'll just kind of keep it at that. And that's why I learned to keep myself busy and just keep on learning. I know that I've been bagging on the schooling system for the most part, but there are parts of me that still miss school. So one part of school that I do miss is the social aspect of it. When you're in school, it is a lot easier to make friends compared to when you're an adult, especially nowadays, just because everyone is on their phone and no one wants to talk to each other, or they have their headphones in or something like that, or no one wants to have basic conversation anymore. When you're in school, you're forced to meet people just based on proximity. We're sitting next to a bunch of random people our age, which makes it a lot easier. You're next to people all day and slowly you have conversations with people and sometimes that turns into friendships. When I first got to college, I had this cognitive psychology class, and I sat next to two girls, and one of them is still friends with me to this day, and the other one I'm not friends with anymore, unfortunately. But basically, we were kind of just talking, and I saw them hit a dab pen in class, which I thought was hilarious. And they asked me if I wanted to hit a dab pen, which I didn't. I was in class, so I didn't really do that. So I just told them no. But anyways, we still kind of, got some basic conversations. We talked about Red Rocks and concerts and EDM music and stuff like that. The girl next to me was like, "Hey, I'll see you next class." And I kind of just looked at her like she was like, I didn't really know why she said that. I was like, "Oh, we're actually friends now," kind of thing. And ended up still being friends with most of those people till this day. But so that's kind of just like a little example of something that you do in college and stuff. And not to mention that when you are in class, you guys have the same struggles with the class, the homework, or the teacher, or whatever. So there are already mutual subjects to talk about with each other. Not to mention extracurricular activities, which a lot of adults do not do now. Some of them are starting to get like more out there, like run clubs or like sports and stuff like that, and just kind of getting more out there. When you're in school, you have a lot of things like sports, music, theater, dance, or, other subjects that you can learn too as well. With those, you have similar interests already and have hobbies, so it is easier to make friends and, just stay as friends as well. And I kind of hear a lot on YouTube that once you become an adult, it is very hard to make friends, especially if you don't have that friend group already built out for you, either from high school or from college. A lot of people don't talk about the social aspect of school because it does help a lot. Because, like I said before, some people don't even have those friend groups that they graduated with or anything from college or anything like that. Another thing about college is that once you go to college, you can join a fraternity or a sorority, which personally I didn't really do because I was never really a partier and I didn't really care to be around that scene that much. However, a lot of people did join them and had the time of their lives or whatever you want to say when it comes to college and stuff like that. I just wasn't one of those people, and I don't know. That was just another way for people to make friends when they were in school. Another thing that I miss is that when you're in school, you have little obligations to really think about. Not everyone has to worry about rent, their jobs, bills, and etc. You are more carefree and you have a lot more freedom. When you're in high school, you have very little to think about besides school and maybe a few other things. You're able to come home, just play some video games, maybe go play sports, hang out with some friends, play some video games, and maybe just chill when you get home. Of course, it always depends on your upbringing and your parents and what they make you do, but that's just another thing. The last thing I miss from school is the learning aspect of it. Now that I'm older, I kind of wish I took school a little bit more seriously, but there's nothing I can really change now except kind of do what I'm doing right now. I just kind of miss learning something like every day, which of course I can take the matter into my own hands, which is what I've been doing. I enjoy learning new things, and back in the day, I don't know why I hated learning so much. I think it's just because I was like forced to learn and go to the school and all this stuff. And I mean, I found it easy to like learn these subjects and actually like excel at them very quickly. I wasn't like a gifted kid or anything like that, which is kind of nice, but I learned more subjects quicker than most other people. I mean, it always depended on the subject as well. I was very good at math and science, and then English and like reading and stuff were not my favorite subjects because I don't really like reading that much. Well, I do like reading, but it kind of depends on the subject and stuff. I like philosophy and like psychology and stuff like that. But I don't like being forced to read. And even to this day, I'm not much of a big reader. I'm more of someone who likes to do things hands on, and that's how I learn things very quickly. So that's probably why I got into like music production, music and stuff like that, and art and everything along those lines because I only read mainly for like the images and ideas and stuff. I don't actually understand what the hell's going on most of the time. So that is the reason why I would read, but it's not something I go out of my way to do all the time. I don't know. I just miss learning something new every day, even though it was a pain to take notes and retain that information. The quote, use it before you lose it, definitely applies today. As I've been getting older, I can see my memory kind of getting worse or my vocabulary getting worse. And I don't really have the focus and attention span or patience anymore to learn anything new. And I've definitely gotten better at it as I've gotten older. It's just something I've noticed with myself and being alone all the time. You're like just on your phone, like not even doing anything. It's kind of annoying. And I know that my brain is still plastic and I can learn habits for better or for worse. This is all will depend on what I do with my life though. Anyways, that's all I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, and I didn't really have much more to say, but I appreciate any support from you guys. And if you want to check out any of my other videos, feel free, or just kind of check out my description, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.